Happy Thursday. It is Thursday. It's 3 o'clock. It's actually 12 minutes past 3 on the East Coast. And that means Ron and I go live on our socials. So welcome. If you're joining us live or if you're watching this later, we appreciate you tuning in. We're going to be talking for about an hour, and we've got some great topics for you this week. And usually our best platform to watch us on is YouTube, because anytime we talk about links or graphs or any of that stuff, we'll quite often add it to our YouTube channel. So if you're watching on somewhere else, great, thanks. If you want the most out of this show, head to our YouTube channel and make sure you subscribe, and you'll get our future notifications. But it's happy hour, so Ron, happy hour to you, sir. Good to see you.
Happy hour, everybody.
Happy hour to McKenna, our producer. Anytime you see an image fly in or a transition or something happen, she's the one in the background making it happen, just like you saw the subscribe little button there at the bottom. That's McKenna in the background making all that stuff happen. McKenna's 24 years old. Ooh, almost got tripped up on that one. But we'll pull her on and get her input on some of the topics throughout the show. And we're going to have a great time. And I'm sure any minute now, your brother Mike Stowers is going to be tuning in and hammering us with questions, which we love. Questions and comments. And we'll show some of them throughout the show. And we'll talk about them. And we'll respond to them. So comments and questions are always welcome. Ron, you're not in your studio today.
No, my studio here in Carlsbad is defunct, and God rest his soul. Hope never to see it again. So I'm in our guest bedroom.
I tried to convince Ron about 2 years ago, or roughly year and a half, to move to a Mac environment, because he and his wife Belinda are both iPhone users. They both have iPads. And probably other devices. And so I tried to convince him to use Apple computers, Macs, about a year and a half ago. And I transitioned from PC to Mac all the way back in 2016, I think, somewhere around there. So I've been using it now for a decade. And I tried to convince Ron, and he went along with it. I built out a studio for him there in his Carlsbad house and another one in Scottsdale, Arizona, and built it all around it working through an Apple computer. I don't think I've ever seen Ron hate something more than he hates Apple computers. The frustration, the level of frustration was kind of humorous. I don't mean to laugh at your expense, Ron, but yeah.
I feel like you're baiting me. Like you're trying to listen to Ron's rant for 55 minutes.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get to this week's topics. We're going to start with a From the Gut, which is a 6 to 10 minute long section where I find something that's interesting to me. It's usually something I see on social media. And this week I'm talking about, I don't want to give too much away. You see the title here, The Gatekeepers Are Gone. And I'll let you wonder on that for a few minutes before I start talking about it. But on one of the From the Guts, about a month ago, roughly, I talked about the Tartan Army, the Scotland team. The Tartan Army is the name for Scotland fans. There was an entire 8-minute monologue about the Tartan Army, and I saw this T-shirt. I'll pull the microphone away in a second. I saw this T-shirt, and I decided to create it for myself, and they are available today at littlenessie.com/store. So if you were inspired by the Tartan Army, the Scotland fans, it was their first time making it to the World Cup in 20 years, you can find this shirt. I'll pull my microphone away so you can see it. There you go. It's available on littlenessie.com/store right now if you would like one. So the Gatekeepers Are Gone. That's my From the Gut that I'm going to get to in just a few minutes. And then Ron, lead the way with these, with our main topics. Our first one is?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love our topics this show. The first one is the Trump accounts. We're going to give you the inside scoop and how to leverage it with your clients. Super excited about our kind of angle on that. Next one is who moved my market, which really is speaking to builder market share, but it also goes to the topic of captured market versus available market. So I'm looking forward to that topic because it's probably one of the more important ones. The debt they forgot they had. This has to do with the new student loan changes and the impact it's going to have, which could be significant. So we'll talk about the impacts and the way to navigate your clients.
All right. And then we've got, I believe, 4 rapid fire topics. So our main topics that Ron just mentioned, we usually spend about 7-8 minutes each on them. And then we usually hit about 3 or 4 rapid fire topics, which are quite often a little bit more fun, lighthearted, and we'll get to those. But without any further ado, let's get to
David,
this week's From the Gut. Yes.
Hey, David, that was very aspirational because truly what we do is we go super long on 3 topics and cut the rest. Starting with the from the gut.
Agreed. I don't have my timer. I've usually, hold on. Oh, I've usually got a timer where McKenna tracks how long we're going on each section. I didn't have that in front of me, so let me pull that up. I'll get to it in a second. All righty, let's get to this week's From the Gut. All right, got my timer going. Boom. All right, so a couple days ago, I think might have been yesterday, I don't remember. I think it was 2 days ago. I came across a social media post, a headline, and it caught my attention. It was Prince William, the future King of England, appeared on the Kelsey Brothers podcast. I've never really seen that podcast. I've seen social media clips, some shorts, some reels, and so on. But Prince William was on it. And I got to thinking that that's a sentence that wouldn't have made any sense 20 years ago, because 20 years ago, if you wanted access to someone like a future king, you needed a television network, you needed a newspaper or a magazine or a major media outlet. But today, the future King of England is sitting down on a podcast with 2 former NFL players. And whether you're interested in the Royals or not, that's a pretty remarkable thing because it tells you something about where attention lives today. The gatekeepers are gone, completely gone. That's the title of this. But they aren't gone, not completely, but they do matter a whole lot less than they used to. And honestly, I've watched this happen throughout my entire career. I've usually been an early adopter for things with tech. I had the very first iPhone. I was the second person in line waiting for that when it came out. I was an early adopter with social media, with video, with digital marketing, and even AI. Most of the time, I'm willing to experiment before everyone else catches on. But there was one thing that I kind of missed, and that's podcasting, believe it or not. It was about 10 years ago. I think it was 2016. It might have been 2017. Podcasts started their rise from going from a mostly audio platform to vlogs, which we really just started calling them podcasts and don't really use the word vlog anymore. It's video blogs. And back then, 2016 or so, my team tried to convince me that we should start a mortgage podcast. And I disagreed. I know the amount of work that I know the amount of work and the time and the energy that goes into video production, and I just didn't see the payoff. Now, to be fair, I was working in the mortgage industry, and podcasting wasn't what it is today. The audience were obviously smaller. The reach was smaller. The influence was smaller. And from where I sat, it felt like a lot of work for very little in return. So I dismissed it. I wasn't against podcasting because I thought it was a bad idea. I just didn't think it mattered for our audience as a mortgage company, or it was valuable enough for the time and effort that would go into it. But in hindsight, I was wrong. Not because podcasting became popular, but because I underestimated where people's attention was heading. Fast forward to today, some of the biggest conversations in the world happen on podcasts. You see top athletes, you see CEOs, authors, scientists, comedians, presidents, and apparently now future kings. Well, of course, I've course corrected. Ron and I have leaned into podcasting. We're, of course, exploring it and learning it, figuring out what works and what doesn't. But at the same time, I completely understand why people roll their eyes when they hear someone is starting a new podcast, because now we've almost gone too far in the other direction. Everybody has one. Every celebrity, every entrepreneur, every coach, every influencer. Sometimes it feels like you have to sort through 10 mediocre podcasts just to find one great one. And if you want further proof that the gatekeepers are gone, look at a YouTube channel like Outdoor Boys. I did a From the Gut monologue about maybe 5 months ago where I used him as an example. Now, this is a YouTube channel, it's not a podcast, but it teaches the same lesson. A few years ago, most people had never heard of Luke Nichols or the Outdoor Boys. He wasn't a celebrity. He's not a professional athlete. He wasn't backed by a television network, but he's a guy with over 20 million subscribers on YouTube alone, not counting TikTok and the others. On YouTube alone, 20 million subscribers. And at that many subscribers, if you're doing it right, you can make a very good living for yourself. But he was just a guy making videos about camping and outdoor survival and fishing with his family. Excuse me. And somehow millions upon millions of people started watching. Not because a network executive decided he deserved an audience, and not because a media company gave him a platform, but because regular people found the content and shared it with other people. And think about how crazy that is. For most of human history, if you wanted a large audience, you had to be a world changer or a world leader or something similar. But today, you can build one yourself fairly easily. When I look at loan officers and real estate agents trying to increase their production, but they don't leverage social media, and more specifically, organic social media that's free, I think about this attention game and how easy it can be compared to the past. Now, that doesn't mean everyone can reach 1 million subscribers on YouTube or whatever, but comparing it to the past, it's a whole new world. And a lot of loan officers I know treat organic social media like lead generation. They're looking for instant payoff. They make a post, or maybe they make a few. Then they wait for the phone to ring. They expect the process to look like an ad. And when that doesn't happen, they decide that social media doesn't work. But that's not what organic social media is. Organic social media is trust. It's a trust building strategy. It's a familiarity strategy. And those things take time, a lot more time than most people are comfortable with or willing to commit to. No one listens to one or two podcasts and suddenly feels like they're best friends with the host. No one watches 3 videos and immediately trusts someone with one of the biggest financial decisions of their life. That's not how people work. Trust gets trust gets built over time. It gets built one interaction at a time. One video, one story, and eventually something interesting starts to happen. People start to recognize your name. They recognize your face and they understand how you think. They begin to feel like they know you, even if they've never met you. I'm sure you've never met everyone of your followers on social media. That's why I think a lot of loan officers look at influencers and immediately dismiss the whole idea. They assume that that's the goal, millions of followers and viral videos, but most loan officers don't really want to become influencers. They're simply trying to become the obvious choice in their market. And those are two completely different goals. So the question is, do you care enough about your message to keep showing up after the excitement wears off? Because there's no limit to reach anymore outside of maybe the constantly changing algorithm and maybe the quality of your content. Your audience can be as large as you want. The world changed, the gatekeepers lost control. The tools are now available for everyone. The opportunity isn't reserved for celebrities and leaders anymore. It isn't reserved for television networks or the people with the biggest budgets. It's available to anyone willing to raise their hand, share their perspective, and put something into the world. So the question is no longer whether you can get an audience. The question is what you're going to do with that opportunity. That's my From the Gut this week.
David, another excellent from the gut. You know, I love listening to your from your guts. I will tell you the thing that I would add. I don't think I don't think anybody should strive to become an influencer. What you should strive to become is to attract the people that are looking for you. It's such a different thing. So that's David. You would agree that's being authentic, right? And you remember I did that post about Cheetos, and I'm like, man, Glenn and I were late. We're only we had the cabin with Cheetos, and man, we ate them, and they were like, this is the greatest thing. And I'm sure Cheetos don't even qualify as a food. Like they might even qualify more like a construction material, but they've been around for I don't know 50 years. They sell a ton of them, and you know what? They are what they are. Some crappy piece of cardboard with chemical flavoring, but they attract the people that are looking for it. That's the whole key. When you're creating, your influence, all you're really trying to do is be the Cheeto, attract the people that like Cheetos. Don't attract the people that like broccoli. That's not what you're supposed to be. And when you try to be the person that's trying to attract broccoli, you suck. But if you be the person you actually are, like the outdoorsman, like whatever it is, whatever the thing is, the people that want to find you will find you.
There are some people that, try to copy influencers and those people, but there's no sense in doing that unless you want that to be your job, right? Uh, Most people aren't striving to be content creators. I would assume most loan officers are not trying to switch careers and become a content creator, an influencer. But that's not all what social media is about. Social media is about I a lot of people say social media is about community and engagement and all that kind of stuff. I fall somewhere in the middle. I'm not really looking to build an online community. I prefer face to face and that kind of relationship. I think online relationships can be a little bit pretend and fake, even if you're being genuine and authentic. Building a relationship with someone online, especially social media, and never having any human connection is a little bit out there. But your brother McKenna, bring Mike's last comment up for me, please. It says entertainment seems like a premium. Sometimes social media looks like an American Idol audition. Your question seems op.
On
I assume
on
seems
on
on
point.
point if people actually have a message that matters. And yes, that is important because there's plenty of people on social media that are kind of painful. I don't delete followers or friends very often, even if they trash one side of a political party that doesn't line up with mine. I'm not one to kind of delete friends and so on. But I have come close where they're just painful and what they're saying is not valuable in any way. It's not educational, it's not entertaining, or at least not to me, and so on. So yeah, I like your comparison there, Mike, with American Idol. We're running a little bit behind. Should we
Hey,
catch
hey,
up?
Mike. Hey, Mike. I don't know Cheetos glow in the dark, but I know my fingers do after I eat them.
uh, is that actually a real thing? Cheetos actually glow
No,
in the
they
dark?
don't. But
McKenna,
I can
no,
I
okay.
can tell you, or else I'd eat them more often.
Because
Uh, and David, I just want to add
because
one thing on Mike's comment because it's a really good point. One of the challenges is you cannot fall into the trap of comparison. Like, how am I
yeah.
compared to the person with 22 million followers? I was in a mastermind and I was sitting next to a person that had 20 million followers, and he loses and gains 250,000 followers a month. And I'm like, well, I got like 5 followers. Let's compare. But that's the whole thing. You can't compare. You can only just be yourself, and not be intimidated or try to be something else. I'm the Cheeto guy.
Yeah. Cheetos. Fun fact: McKenna eats Cheetos with chopsticks, and when I saw her do it the first time, I was like, "What are you doing?" And she was like, "You got to try it." I tried it. Kind of game changer. Eating Cheetos with chopsticks. So if you haven't tried it, try
You know,
it.
David, I cannot command chopsticks other than if I stab the meat and just like a spike. I cannot use chopsticks.
Kelly is the exact same way. Let's move to our first topic. We're talking about the down payment, the $1,000 Trumpy Trump down payment. Kick it off, Ron.
I'm so excited to talk about this because, as you may have known, the one big beautiful bill included these Trump accounts, and the Trump account is essentially kids that are 0 to 5 years old. They get $1,000. It's like an IRA. The Treasury drops $1,000 into their account. It invests in the S&P 500 index. It only has like a 1/10 of 1% fee load, and it's great. It's great, and it sits there, and they get access to it when they turn 18. And to tell you what this means, McKenna, can we go to the next chart? To tell you what this means, um, if you put the $1,000 seed money and put $100 more a month, by the time they turn 18, they have about $50,000. Not insignificant. And that's with a very low rate of return. I think we based it on a 7% rate of return when I made this chart. But the magic is if they keep it there until they get to, say, first time home buying age, at age 30, it's $130,000, all from $1,000 seed and $100 a month. Super important. I'm going to give you some strategies here. But let's say your child's 6, they still can open a Trump account. They just don't get the seed $1,000, and you can deposit up to $5,000 a year into the Trump account. Your employer can do it from pre-tax money that doesn't get assigned to you as income. You or their grandparents or family members that can put into it. By the way, the employers can only put $2,500 a year, and there's already plenty of big employers that are committed to it. Your family members can put money into it. What happens, your money is going in post-tax, your employer money is going in pre-tax. They come out slightly different ways. That's not important. But you can actually build a meaningful seed in life as well as wealth. If they held it through age 60 and you're actually seeding it with extra money, you can make your child that's born today a multimillionaire at retirement without them working or contributing one penny. It is unbelievable. Now, here's the thing, David. This is literally amazing. So I forget what the number was. I had it in my article. Maybe somebody could look it up. I think there's something like I don't remember. It's something like 37 million kids qualify for this this free $1,000. You know what percentage have actually applied or actually went and got it? Less than 10%. Less than
Wow.
10%. And the percentage of the kids that didn't get the $1,000 that the parents opened the account, it's as abysmal. And that makes no sense to me. If I was a loan officer, if I was a real estate agent, I would be dialing for dollars on my database going, hey, I know you have kids. Have you already subscribed to the Trump accounts? And they're going, well, no, my kid's 6. They don't get one. I would go, no, they get one. They just don't get the $1,000. So open the dang thing, please. I mean, it would be such a call to action. And we talk about being a lender up for life and adding value through the relationship. This is a point of value. I would literally call every one of my clients, whether they had a kid or not. They didn't have a kid. I go, okay, you don't have a kid. Does anybody in your family have a kid? Do they do this? It's interesting. David, I published an article on LinkedIn on this earlier in the week, and Belinda's probably handed that or sent that article to like 50 people as her way of saying, I care about you. Go do this, right? Now, here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing, and this is another reason to call. Now, I would qualify it. I'd go, I'm not an accountant. Talk to your tax professional, but here's the strategy. Because when that money comes out, it comes out as ordinary income. So if it's $35,000 when they turn 18, whatever their tax bracket is at that moment, that's what it gets taxed at. Now, if you wait until they're 30 and it's 130,000, or if you wait later and it's 200 and 250,000, that 250,000 is taxed as ordinary income. That's going to put them in a high tax bracket, which with a big tax bite. So they're thinking they have $200,000, but lo and behold, they put themselves in a 24% tax bracket. They just got a $50,000 tax bill. Here's the secret magic, and it's really important to say to your clients. And this will make you sound super intelligent, but tell them to consult their tax professional because we don't give tax advice. Here it is. The day they turn 18, convert it to a Roth IRA and take the tax burden there. Because at $35,000, it will probably fall below the minimum taxable limit, meaning it will come out tax free into the Roth IRA, then let it mature in the Roth IRA tax free until they use it. See what I mean? So you can completely you take the tax load at 18 and then you let it grow. The gain the rest of the way is tax free, and then they can take it out when they want it, and it comes with no tax load. It is completely magical. And if you're sleeping on this, you're missing a huge opportunity to add value to your clients and a huge opportunity to go touch them and give them value. David, what do you think?
I was on mute there. Sorry. It just makes me think about, so my kids are 24 and 26. It just makes me wish this had existed back then. Because do you think if it had existed 20 years ago, 25 years ago, we would we really wouldn't have the housing crisis, not a housing crisis, but the affordability crisis that we have right now? Do you think what position would we be in right now if this existed 25 years ago?
Yeah, you know what's really interesting, David? I'm projecting it as a down payment on a home. But like I said, it could be
Hmm.
a retirement. It could be anything. And the thing that's so clever about this is like this is the incremental step to replacing Social Security. And I know
Yeah.
a lot of people would opt out if they could. Well, this is the little teeny step that way, which I completely embrace. And here's, you want to know something else really interesting, David? This
Yeah.
concept was originally proposed like by Bernie Sanders like 10 years ago. It was a completely left-wing concept that then
Wow.
Donald Trump, adopted now as a right-wing concept. Now they had different motivations, and Bernie Sanders wanted to, seat it with $30,000, not 1,000. So it's a really interesting thing. And I want to correct my numbers. There are 73 million kids in the United States that are eligible for this account, and only 6 million have signed up so far. That's the delta, right? Now, eligible doesn't mean they get the $1,000, but eligible to open. And the ones that get the $1,000, the percent is super low, the people that have signed up. And it's really easy. You can either do this through your tax return when you submit your tax return, or you can go online and sign up for the account. And it's just so urgent to go get people to do this.
I had a question there for a second. It also makes me think about how expensive college is today, and I wonder how many parents are shifting their strategies, as in saving for their kids' college versus it seems like they'd be a lot better off if they saved for their future kids' down payment, right?
Well, David, we talked a couple of shows ago that parents today, the balance has changed. They think it's more important to save for a down payment than they do for college. And the
Right.
whole, David, everything we know about college is completely going to turn upside down because colleges no longer have a whole lot of value for a lot of kids. And so why get into spend $250,000 a year? I mean, all these kids are coming out of college, can't get a job because they're not trained for what the market needs today. Now, I think the pendulum will swing the other way because liberal arts will now start to be dominant, not sciences. But this overpriced colleges, and now you can do AI colleges, which outperform analog colleges like 10 to 1. I mean, the results are crazy. And today you can kind of learn your own skill to be valuable to the marketplace. The people that are getting the 500 billion or $500 million stock incentives aren't people that have the PhD for the most part. The kids that worked in their garage. So that whole balance is changing. I don't think parents are as concerned for saving for college.
You're You saw me laughing. Usually I'm laughing because McKenna sends me something cheeky or something, curses at me, but I'm laughing at your brother's comment here. He said, "Do you think Rosie O'Donnell will apply for her grandkids?" I'm gonna say a big fat no on that one. I did see that there's a couple lawmakers that are gonna vote against or opposed to it simply because of who it's coming from. But I didn't know the fact that it was actually a Bernie Sanders thing 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen people against it just because it's Trump, which is insane.
Mike, I'm not so certain what Rosie O'Donnell, who's a Trump hater, is going to do with her kids, and she'd probably just cede her kids, future if she wanted to because she's wealthy. But I do know that she's with me in the Cheeto Army.
All right, let's move on. Unless you got anything else, Ron. You ready to move on to our next
No,
main topic? Let's
I
do
am.
it. Who
I
moved
don't.
my market?
This is I so enjoy this topic, and what this topic has to do. They had the most recent builder concentration, and what happened is last year the top 10 builders they owned 45% of the new construction market, right? Which is significant. Now the headline was completely false. I think it was a Housing Wire where I saw this in. The headline was market. Top 10 home builders lose market share, which is probably the worst headline I've ever read in my whole life because they went from 45 to 44, which is true year over year. But what it didn't acknowledge, there's been three gigantic M&As in the builder space so far this year that is going to totally change the trend. So it's been trending, and it was something like 20 years ago, the top 10 builders owned 8% of the market. So in like 20 years, it's now 45%. And even as recently as like 2020, the top 10 only owned 10% of them or 20% of the market. So the trend is unbelievable. We had a little hiccup the last year, mostly because we had a problem with profits. But with M&As, that trend is going to accelerate. Not an important thing, just kind of interesting. Well, if you look at builders, David, if you look at, let's say, Taylor Morrison, which was recently an M&A with Berkshire Hathaway, which are going to add to their Clayton home builder, right? Consolidation. But they have an 87% capture rate. And even DHI, the number one mortgage, new construction mortgage company, and like the number five mortgage company, in the United States, depending on metrics, they have that 73% capture rate. And here's what that means. What that means is when a home buyer goes to a builder, the builder is going to capture the entire opportunity of that home buyer, including mortgage. And you and I no longer have that opportunity. And so what's happened? Our market has shrunk, right? Because we know that is now a captured off limit market. Right. So that part of the market's off limits. And so the available market to me has shrunk. It's simply shrunk. And why this is important to understand is if servicers, Rocket claims they're retaining plus 80% of the refis in their servicing book, well, that used to be my market too. And now that market's walled off for me. And so my market is shrinking, shrinking, and shrinking, right? Really. Or let's say my agent, my agent, my best agent, their company was just acquired by Compass. Compass can actually put a 1000% not throttle, incentive on agents using their in-house lender. So now the only way my agent's going to work with me, my agent that used to account for half my business, is if I go join the Compass related lender team, right? And so if not, that market is now off limits to me. And so what we're seeing every day, David, every month, every year now is more and more what used to be the open market shrinking as it gets walled off away from us. And that's why so many people who's been in the business a long time, they go, I don't know what the hell's going on. And I'm like, well, I know what's going on. You used to have access to say 95% of the market, and now you only have access to 40% of the market. And so even while there's less loan officers, the competition for what's left is really brutal, really, really brutal, right? And that's what's happening. And so when we go this title like "Who Moved My Market," which is a play off of "Who Moved My Cheese," right? "Who Moved My Cheese" is a lot of the access to the market you need is being removed from you, and so you have a couple choices, right? If that market's important to you, like builder, you go, how do I pierce through that wall that's not letting me in? Well, you can work with a builder loan officer, a builder lender. You can join DHI, or you can work with one of the affiliated lenders that have builder relationships that gets you past that wall. or you can possibly climb the wall by offering something the other lenders don't offer, right? You can be, a third choice or an alternative lender, and that means you could do crappy loans, you could do niche loans. There's things that you could do. You could do loans that need to close in 5, distress loans. You could do all sorts of stuff. That's a tough road to hoe. I don't know if I recommend it. So, but there are ways around it, but they're very hard, and you have to be very tactical and specific. Now, let's say I don't want to go. We know plenty of loan officers whom were the preferred lender in a preferred lender relationship. The builder got, especially recently, the builder gets acquired. Now we're on the out. They're canceling our JV. We're on the out. Our loan officer has a chance to go join the new lender company. They're going, nope, I don't want to do it. I'm gonna just go fight in the wild. Perfect, fine, great. Just know the wild now is a very small subset of the market and is going to be extremely competitive. So you better bring your A game, because if you're bringing your B game, not only did you lose the captured business that's away from you, but you're going to go compete in a place that you're going to get slayed. And so that just makes it for a very interesting environment. David, what's your thoughts?
Sorry, was on mute again. How important do you think, as the game changes, rules are changing, markets are consolidating, how important do you think it is that loan officers start to lean more in on niche products? Is their market share decreases? Do you think that is something people should be thinking about?
You know what it is? When sales are hard, builders will take anything. When sales are booming, they're very, very picky. And so it's more a virtue of the velocity of the market than anything else.
Right. Do you think most consumers prefer convenience, or the convenience of using the builder for their mortgage? Or do you think it's the builders actually have more leverage in that? What kind of boils down to the psychology of it?
Well, I mean, one thing is, I mean, honestly, the builder with a, embedded mortgage relationship is offering an unbeatable offer, right?
Right.
I mean, they're buying the interest rates down to 3.99, 2.99. They're giving tons of incentive if you use the entire package. Buyers like that. I mean, buyers like that. It's one of those things. I was on, I think I was on a podcast recently, and somebody asked me, "Is it a good thing what builders are doing?" I'm like, "It's a great thing if you're a buyer. It's a bad thing if you're a competitor, because you simply can't compete. And if you're really serving your buyer's best interest, you got to go. You got to take that. You got to take all those incentives. You got to take the buy down. You got to take the subsidized rate, the forward commitment. You got to take that." And builders are now selling at the unheard of margins, sub 18%, 17%, 15%. That's crazy, because they're throwing it all into the pie. You just can't compete. So you just got to say, "Hey, I care about you. You got to take that deal." So for buyers, it's unmistakable. The other thing is, David, usually an in-house buyer, affiliated buyer, is going to give an overall better experience to the client. Now, I say better experience because it's integrated, but not necessarily better advice. That's really critical. Not necessarily better advice, not necessarily a better Sherpa who leads them through, because builder loan officers deal with a ton of files, a ton of clients. It's not about personalized, great service. Now, I will tell you this, David. Builders, builders the number one thing they want from their lender, because I've sat over a lot of builder accounts. They care about what the customer survey is. How well did you do? And if your
Mm.
NPS score is crappy, that's going to be your last month in the community. They care what they care. They want their customers to be delighted. That's number one. And when they control the lender, they can make sure that happens. Anyway, there you go.
We are 5 seconds over, so we kind of nailed that one. I say we move on to our next one. Yes, the
Mike, that will be my
debt
next
they
book. Who moved my Mike? Mike, that will be my next book. Who moved my Cheetos? It'll have a picture of a bloody knife on the cover.
What a great book. Who
All right.
Moved My Cheese? When I first started at Movement Mortgage, the co-founder, Toby Harris, he made every new employee read Who Moved My Cheese. That was the first time I'd read it. That was 15, 16, 17 years ago.
Yeah, good book.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, let's keep
The
going.
debt
Let's
they
keep on
forgot
time.
they had.
Yeah, this is really interesting. This is another reason to call your clients. I love when you get a call to action unless you call your clients. Like the worst call, I mean, not the worst. The worst call is a call you don't make. But when you just go, "Hi, Mr. Past Client. I was just thinking about you. I know I haven't talked to you for 12 years, but you were on my mind. How are you? And would you like a mortgage?" Like that's an awkward call, right? But even if you haven't talked to your client in some time, hey, I know we haven't talked, and I apologize about that, but I know you have kids. They're probably in college now. Do they have student loan debt? Well, if they do, here's what you need to pay attention to, right? Right? You're calling with value. There's no objection, and you're not asking for anything. You're just giving unselfishly, and the law of reciprocity will find its way because they know you're a lender, and if they have a lending need, they're going to talk about it. So here's the deal: the save plan is ending. The save plan is ending. It's a federal student loan plan. It's ending, and there's 7 million college kids on not college kids, people with student loans, which are mostly graduated people. People with student loans. There's 7 million on this plan. They have 90 days to pick a new plan. 90 days. If they don't, they're in default. 90 days, pick a new plan. And what happens, they're getting tons of mail in the mail. But if you're like me, I put my trash can right next to my mailbox and I take it out of the mailbox and I throw it in the trash can. I don't even look. And by the way, if you want my social security number, just go hang out at my house. And so people aren't paying attention to this mail and they're going to totally miss the 90-day deadline. Now, David, this is amazing. We've talked about this before. I know I wrote an article on this. There's a misconception about college debt in America. 70% of outstanding college loans, aggregate per student, that take out college loans. So as soon as they take out college loans, their aggregate outstanding balances, 70% of them are less than $25,000. We think of all these student loans outstanding for 150 or 250. That's the law school student loan. Those are like the top 1%. That's the anomaly. So most of our clients, they probably have 3 or 4 or 5 student loans, all for like 3,500, 5,000, and like together they come to like 20,000. But think of this: if they ignore this 90 days, and the next day they get a 90-day late notice on 5 loans, they're not going to be buying a house for 2 years. And on FHA, it disqualifies them, completely disqualifies them. And so ignoring this is, at their peril. And you need to make an outbound phone call to say, hey, I know you or your kids might have student loans. You have to pay attention to this. And you know what? We could put a link to the source article on this below. It was I don't remember who it was, but McKenna, we can put a source link so you can just send that article to your clients and talk to them about it. It tells you all the things you need to know. But this is one of those things you can just reach out and with value. David, you got any thoughts on this?
Not many. It just seems to me, it just strikes me as a communication problem, not a mortgage problem, which is happens quite frequently in the mortgage industry. Just bad communication, you know. Um,
Yeah, let me, David.
that's it.
By the way, I mean this isn't a mortgage problem. I mean it's a problem if you have somebody in a transaction, all of a sudden you repull their credit score and it went down 200 points. That would be a problem. It's a
Right.
problem if all of a sudden these student loans that weren't on their credit report show up, and now you got a 300, which is about what's going to be $300 monthly load, and now they no longer qualify in DTI. That's a problem. But I like to look at
Right.
it more proactively as a service. Hey, look, let's pay attention to this. But by the way, this is another thing. I would open up every one of my pre-approvals. I would see who has student loans, or I'd call the clients and go, "Hey, do you have any student loans? Are any of these in the SAVE program? Let's get you
Mhm.
re-approved just to make sure you have confidence." That's what I would do. That's 100% what I would do. The one thing I would tell you on this. There was 2 other points which I was trying to remember that are super important on with this student loan, but just study it, get a hold of your clients. Oh, I know. Here it is, David. Here's why these are so sneaky. And this is why you have to have a little bit of empathy. A lot of these student loans have been sitting in the dark. Under Biden, they just forbear them. He's never going to have to pay them again. He was forgiving, hundreds of billions of dollars at a time. They were led to believe these are going to go away. Maybe they haven't made a payment in 10, 15 years. It's like these
Jeez.
ghost seconds that people thought went away, just because they no longer started were collecting payments. Not true at all. And so they're like, "Oh, look at this junk mail. I'm trying to make a payment. I didn't even know I had this student loan left. That's junk," because they haven't made a payment. They haven't seen a thing on it for like 15 years. That's why the whole title is "The Debt They Forgot They Had." It's not like they're purposely being irresponsible. They don't even remember. And then when they get exposed to
Mm.
it, like, really? I got to make a payment on that? I thought Joe Biden said I never was going to have to do that. I can't believe it. And that's the problem.
Um, quick thing, off topic, but I think I might create a new T-shirt for every single podcast because Ron, as you've been talking, I've probably seemed distracted because I've been posting the link to this T-shirt on YouTube and on Facebook, and your brother already bought one of these T-shirts, so obviously he's a Tartan Army fan. But maybe I'll have a T-shirt of the week where we promote it and we have maybe some kind of competition around it. But Mike, if you see, I also see your comment about asking for the link. We just posted it on our YouTube channel as well. I'll see if I
And
can
Mike,
post
I
on.
can send that to you. Of course, you
Yeah,
could go to my link where I actually I source the links.
I
David,
can
see,
actually do it. Is it
you know
behind the
what?
paywall though, Ron?
I don't remember what the source was. It's not in my notes. I already threw my
It's
notes behind
Housing
me.
Wire.
Uh,
There we go. I just
we can
posted
do
it.
it as a gift. We can do it as a gift article. So they can do the gift article link, David, and then they can access it. But
Gotcha.
yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
yeah. There you go.
Let's move into our
I know. I was going
rapid
to say. So
fires. Oh,
hold on.
go ahead.
So guys, Dave and I have worked together. I think 2 or 3 companies, and we've had a lot of fun. And yeah, every time I try to design a T-shirt, I'm so excited about it, or I create a T-shirt, contest. Like David purposely rates mine as like bottom 1%, and then he mocks me. He goes, "He'll never do it. He'll never do a T-shirt near me." So David, let's do this. Let's each create a T-shirt design to see who sells more each show. And I got
No,
to tell you,
not
half the audience is my family, so I have the advantage. Maybe not.
not everyone.
You're pretty
Not
good.
everyone gets a
You're
sticker, Ron. Not everyone gets a
you're
trophy. It's okay.
you're so good at making swag, dude. So I take it back.
Bobbleheads too. All right, let's move on to rapid fire. So we've got 4 topics. We might skip the last one. We'll see, or skip one of them, but probably not. We've got 4 topics. We're going to try and spend no more than 3 or 4 minutes on each one. But our first one, the millionaire next door, is probably you. Take it away, Ron.
Yeah, this is really interesting. It became I saw a post, and it was by one of my favorite financial analysts, Ben Carlson from A Wealth of Common Sense, and uh, he was looking at millionaires a bunch of different ways. And first, there are currently 9 million Americans, that have over $1 million in liquid assets, just liquid assets, right?
What was
There's
that number?
another
9 million?
9 million in liquid
Okay.
assets in the bank or in some sort of portfolio fund, right? There's another 15 million Americans that have at least $1 million of net equity. So there's 24 million Americans that are millionaires. By the way, when I say that's the number's a little incorrect, by the way, because the 9 million Americans are individuals, the 15 million are households. So with households, there's more than one
Mm.
person in it. So that the number that are millionaires are a bigger number. But if we were to project that, that means about, 1 in 5 Americans today are millionaires. Now, people that own their homes are millionaires on paper, but your equity doesn't necessarily buy you a loaf of bread. And thank you, McKenna, for showing this. And so equity doesn't necessarily buy you a loaf of bread. And so the question is, are millionaires rich, and how many millionaires? Well, we know that there's about 24 millionaires. Are millionaires rich? I really love this definition. It's from an NYU professor. I can't believe I'm quoting an NYU professor, but Scott Galloway, and he defined he defined wealth simply as rich is when your passive income is greater than your burn, right? Your passive income is greater than your monthly nut. And he goes, you can make. I know people that make 2-3 million a month, but their monthly nuts higher than that. I would define them as poor. But same person that makes $50,000 a year and their annual burn is 40,000, I would define them as rich. Really interesting. And so the only point there is not how many millionaires there are. The point is that definition of rich. I would personally include that in my advisory path with my clients, to put that as the North Star and to start with. And I think that's pretty reasonable. David, what's your thought? And by the way, this is McKenna. What's your thoughts?
Oh boy.
Oh boy,
I'm not
McKenna.
sure if
Hello.
McKenna's. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't really know what my thoughts are. I was just trying to make sure I was pulling up the right chart.
Oh, thank you. Good job.
Now
What do you
the
think about?
title of this section with the millionaire next door is probably you. I went on a Dave Ramsey kick just a handful of months ago. I've always been aware of Dave Ramsey, but started watching you know how the algorithm works when you watch one video and another one pops up and another one pops up, and the more you watch, the more it suggests. So I went on a Dave Ramsey kick for a while. And he's done many studies, but one that stuck out to me about how they interviewed uh, 5,000, I don't remember the number, millionaires, but the number one job they had and the number one car that they drove, the number one car they drove was a Toyota. So you would just never know. But yes, there is a big difference in between people that have $1 million liquid versus $1 million net worth. Because you know, you think about, so even you know, if your house is paid off, are you technically rich even if your wealth is trapped inside of your house, your equity? Are you still rich?
Yeah. Well, yes, you can be cash poor, but you still are rich. I like to think.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Not if you want to use that money though.
Yeah. But of course, being a lender, we know we have access to that equity if you need it. But then, of course, you're spending it all. So
That's
then you're
true.
not rich at all.
That's
Let's move
true.
on. Let's talk about another rich
Let's
thing.
move on. Oh yeah, we went over on that one. Zip codes of money.
Yeah. So there's a new study out by Moneyline, and it said what zip codes have the highest income, and it's interesting. It's not surprising. You know, the coastal states, the tech cities. Number one was. Do we have a? I think we have a chart on this, right, McKenna? I think we have two charts actually. As I clear
We
the
do
cobwebs.
not.
No, we don't
We
have
don't.
any
We
slides
have
on
no
this one.
charts. Well, you guys don't get to see anything. We should have created a chart. That's bad on me. But Scarsdale, New York, is number one, and it came in with an average household income of $212,000 last year. West University Place in Texas came in second with 439,000. Rye, New York, which is really weird, 428,000. Los Altos, where we're starting to get into the tech belt, came in at 417,000. Paradise Valley rounds out the top five. That's here in Arizona, 408. And here's the whole thing. The whole point, and this is a really quick topic. We have a K-shaped economy. We have K-shaped wealth. You know, you can find the river of abundance if you go to places that have these high incomes. These people, these tech companies are minting thousands of millionaires. You can go where the average price point we talked about, I think last week, David. There's something like 220 metros now that have an entry level price point of over $1 million. So you can navigate to that spot where there's abundance. That's all we're pointing out. David, you got any thoughts on that?
No, I'd like to hear from your brother or anyone else that's watching. Would you rather live in the wealthiest suburb or the fastest growing suburb? McKenna, what about you? What are your favorite places to live? Some place where it's wealthy, which kind of typically goes hand in hand with luxury, amenities, safety, or fastest growing suburb.
I think for me, I would say most likely wealthiest instead of fastest growing, just so that way I wouldn't have to deal with construction on the roads all the time as we do where we are, because
Yeah.
that is annoying. So,
You live in
mostly from that perspective.
you live in a great area. What are you suggesting?
We live in a
You live in
great
the
area,
suburbs.
but the
Yeah.
construction traffic never ends, and it's so annoying.
Construction is everywhere. You know, when they during the
It is.
pandemic when they funded shovel ready, projects that only took 20 years to kick off, we're on
Mhm.
the tail end of that. $2 trillion of investment, even in
Is
rich
that what it
areas.
was? 2,000,000,000,000?
I think. I mean, the three bills together were like 3.5 trillion, and how much went to infrastructure was somewhere around 1.5 or something. It depends on how you measure it, and that's still working itself through the economy. But you know what, David, I've always and I'm no real estate genius or icon, but I always try to buy the worst house in the most expensive neighborhood.
Yeah.
Like I want to buy the bottom house, remodel it, renovate it, ride the value of the market, and see if I can't get some sort of yield on that. Now I can't tell you it's always worked, but that's at least been my strategy.
Yeah, your brother answered that same question. He'd rather live in the fastest growing, but he said, caveat for a change. So the
Yeah.
pioneers were amazing at making our country grow. Their willingness to go, mobility vouchers. That text is too small. Anyway, let's move on to our third rapid fire topic where we're talking about weddings.
Yeah, and David, I just want to let you know the last rapid fire is my favorite one, so we got to make sure we leave enough space for that, even if we have to kill
Okay,
the tech one. All right,
got it.
so the wedding bill comes due. It's so interesting. Marriage has such a vital role and signal in mortgage and housing, because when people get married, a high percentage of them form a new household. So that's household formation. Household formation then creates demand for housing, whether it's rental or purchase. Oftentimes it's purchase, so it's really important. But people get married, they buy a house, they get a dog, they have a kid, they buy new cars. It's the weirdest thing. The correlation of how quickly those four things happen is amazing. It's purely a signal. But what happens if on the way they spend $200,000 on a wedding, or $300,000 on a wedding, or $50,000 on the wedding? And so what could have been that down payment on the house has now been consumed, and they're going to be living in an apartment. So this is what it has to do. So we have a bunch of data on this, and McKenna's going to chirp in, especially about this picture. So remember this picture right here, because McKenna's going to come back to it. Just look at it,
Hold on,
capture it,
wait. Can I interject? If you know what this,
please.
can I take the picture away for a second? If you know where this picture is from, comment. If you comment within 2 minutes from right now, so it's 4:08. If you comment within the next 2 minutes where you know that picture was from, I'll send you a free T-shirt. So, all right, keep
Or a
going.
bag of Cheetos. But yeah,
Or a bag of
a
Cheetos
T-shirt and
with
a bag of Cheetos.
chopsticks. Yes,
No
if you know
chopsticks.
where
Thank
that
you. Very
picture,
good one.
what that picture was from, let's go to the first chart. If you know that
All
what that
right.
picture was
So
from,
here's the deal:
send it in the comments.
the average wedding costs $36,000, right? And obviously, as we talked about, the trade off is down payment or paying off debt or emergency cushion, and so that's the thing. And by the way, another good consulting question. Oh, I see you have kids that seem to be of marriage age. Are you going to pay for their wedding? What's that? How are you going to do it? How are you going to finance it? Do we take equity out? Or your kids that are getting married, how's that going to impact your ability to qualify? Right? This good things to know, good things to understand, good things to talk about. But let's look at that real data. I think we have a bunch of data charts here, right? This came from a Bank of America study, and they did it. They synthesized it from actual payment debits out of the bank account to what would be typically assumed as marriage vendors. They openly admitted, like some of them couldn't have been people having parties so they could get missed signals, but they were directionally correct. So this is it. This is the wedding spending per customer grew about 8.5% year over year. By the way, total side note, David, more and more, a higher percentage of people are deciding to elope, save the money, and apply it to things like paying down student debt as a down payment on the house. So it's two things that are totally counter can be true at the same time. So even why people are spending more, and why do you think they're spending more? Why they, David? Do you know why? Do you have a
What?
guess why people are spending more today? Yeah, because
I
people are
don't.
richer than ever. Yeah, no, people are richer than ever. We have more wealth in the United States than we could even conceive of. And so people are just finding ways to spend it. Now, is that true for everyone? No, but it's true for a lot of people. All right, so let's go to the next one. This is just an interesting. I wouldn't have guessed this. This is look at that Gen Z line. That's the number of Gen Z weddings have tripled since 2019. Isn't that really interesting? And isn't that contrary to what we've heard? We've heard about new kids, young kids aren't getting married anymore. They don't believe in the convention of marriage, all that kind of stuff. I just think it was delayed. That's what we're. That's what that hockey stick says. It wasn't. They didn't abandon it. It was just delayed, and that's super interesting. And you can figure the same thing that will happen millennials. And the same thing will happen with Gen Alpha, right? It's just a change. I thought that was fascinating. David, do you have any thoughts on that?
Nope. Keep going.
McKenna, you might as well join us on screen because this probably you have better insights than we do. You got any thoughts on that hockey stick?
Well, so go ahead, McKenna. I did have a thought, but go ahead.
You go ahead first.
It just seems to be contradictory a little bit to some of the other data that we've shared in the last handful of podcasts with, and you described it as just delayed, but it seems like the average age of people getting married is getting pushed and pushed and pushed to later and later on in life, and so I was a little bit shocked when I saw that yesterday when you showed it to me.
Part of that's why I think, David, why marriage is getting pushed is that people are getting comfortable having kids later in life, so they don't feel so rushed to get married at 20, so they can start having kids.
Yeah,
We showed that number of people getting, I think, having kids after 40 or 50, and it was crazy. It was more than people in their 30s. But McKenna, how does this
yeah.
strike you?
It is. It does and it doesn't surprise me. I see a lot of angles from each side where people are wanting to get married at like 19 or 20 and like pushing for everybody to get married and have kids so young. But then I also see the other side of that where people are like, hell no, I don't want to get married. I'm not ready for kids. I want to live my life. I want to get myself set up. And so it is surprising to me how much it's gone up. But then again, Gen Z is getting older and so we are definitely getting into that stage of life. I mean, my boyfriend who's 27 is Gen Z. So there's two sides of it.
Hmm. I see. It feels like that curve's about to bend. But you know what, Mike, to your question, if our producer, McKenna, was not an AI atheist, she could research that topic for you and get you an answer. Uh, but well, it's a good question, though. My guess is yes, the more they spend, the higher the divorce rate, because the more they spend, the dumber they are, and the most likely that they're not going to be happy. That was an editorial, by the way.
Well, to be fair, Ron, I don't need AI to Google something or to look at articles.
We're going to argue. By the way, we argue AI all the time. McKenna would have to concede that Google is really a form of AI, but let's skip that for a second. Let's
Okay.
uh, let's go to another chart and
You
stay on
should
the
hear the way
screen.
Ron and McKenna speak to each other when we're not live. It's fun.
I'm polite and direct, and
Mc-
McKenna's a sailor,
Okay.
and she's like a sailor.
Okay.
All right, this is when people get married, and there's obviously the most weddings come. They spike in May. They kind of do another little teeny spike at the end of September and October. That's just kind of the rhythm of marriage. What you'd expect. I mean, it's kind of what we all understand. And of course, January you can get flowers for cheap. That's a good time to get married. Uh, February around Valentine's Day, bad, costs a lot of money. But there you go. Does that strike you guys surprising?
Not
Not really.
particularly.
Not really.
Yeah, what we expect. Okay, let's go to the next slide. This is a super busy slide. Then this is where McKenna's now gonna, she's gonna drop the punchline on you guys. The amount of people who spend over $5,000 on flowers, for a wedding, it's spiking. You can see it's spiking heavily. But McKenna, what can you add to this?
So, I'm the one that usually picks the intro slides, and I saw this chart while I was prepping. And the reason I picked this intro slide, I'll go back to it because we're going to reveal the answer, is because it is from Euphoria, a TV show that's on HBO Max. And the last season just recently came out, and one big plot point was that for this wedding, the wife, she wanted to spend $50,000 on her wedding flowers. Well, I watched a video after this had come out, and she's a florist, particularly a wedding florist, and she added up the amounts of all the different floral arrangements that you could see, and it was closer to about $80,000, I think.
Oof.
I'm lowballing it just so that way I don't go crazy over. But yes, lowballing it to about $80,000 for flowers.
Wow.
I mean, one, it looks horrible, but let's pretend it looked nice. I mean, I guess if it looked nice and you had billions of dollars, what do you care? I mean, I guess. Now, if you only have a $200,000 net worth and you just spent $80,000 on flowers, well, you got a little bit of a problem,
Well,
but it looks horrible. And by the
money
way, I'm
can't
really
buy
disappointed.
class.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. I'm really disappointed that nobody in our audience just capture that picture and put it into their Gemini and got an answer and opted for their free Cheetos. I thought that was
I
really
assumed someone was gonna do that. Your brother Mike guessed that it was Troy Rogers, but I had to message McKenna. I was like, I don't know the name of the guy in this scene on that show. Is that Troy Rogers? She was like, nope.
No.
Mike flowers for funerals are a dead thing.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't asking for flowers.
Oh, McKenna got the dad joke.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
All right, let's keep moving because this next topic I really like.
All right, rich man, poor man.
Yeah, I like this topic so much that I agonized over writing a LinkedIn article. It took me a couple of days. I think it posted yesterday, and because this just falls into my sweet spot of Ron's rant. And here's what I want to show. Let's show the first chart. I think, McKenna. Let's do the charts real quick, and then I'll capture this. So this chart came out. It was widely distributed in the media. I'm using the most easy to digest, the one from Visual Capitalist. And here's what it suggests. It just simply suggests the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. That's what it says. And what this is a comparison chart. So, for example, and you know what? Let me pull it up so I can actually see it. So for example,
yeah, I was just going to explain. I was just going to explain it a little bit, Ron. If someone's looking on a mobile device, they probably can't read it. So,
yeah. So here's what it says: the top, the top 1% or top 1/10 of 1%, their concentration of wealth has gone from 8.6% in 1989 to 14.5% in 2025. So the concentration of their wealth is growing exponentially. And then if you go to the very bottom, and the bottom, by the way, is the bottom 50%, their wealth has gone from 3.5% concentration, meaning they own 3.5% of the wealth, to just 2.5% of the wealth. So the implication is the bottom 50% are getting screwed, and the rich are screwing people and just getting richer. That's the whole point. And this got a ton of media, both in our industry and outside our industry. And you go, well, that's kind of interesting, isn't it? But here's the whole point, and this is so important, and it goes to this core philosophy. And if you're really interested, go and read my LinkedIn article, because I bring in my article about Peter Turchin's his fourth turn, or Neil Howe's fourth turning, and Peter Turchin's the overproduction of elites. And what it's about is that we're getting to a point where there's just societal discontent, and the discontent is driven by comparison. It's comparison. It's not what is my situation in life. It's what's my situation in life compared to someone else. And they're completely different things. And what happens, our potential clients get inundated with this noise, and it adds to their paralysis, their insecurity, their inability to make good decisions for their family, because they're hurt. Oh my God, we're getting screwed. We're the bottom 50%. We are totally screwed. And it's just all part of this vibe session that we have. We're in one of the strongest economies in American history, while you have the very lowest consumer confidence at the same time. It's so crazy. So here's what I want to dispel. Let's go to the next chart, because this is the way you should look at it. Wealth isn't proportional. Wealth isn't it's not a proportion comparison. What it is how much real wealth you have. And if we can blow this chart up, this is the bottom 50%. The bottom 50%'s wealth is 4 times greater than in 1989 than today. And in nominal dollars, it's meaning after inflation adjusted dollars, their wealth is 3 times greater than what it was in 1989. Who the hell cares how it compares to the richest person, right? Because here's the deal. Okay, let's put this in reverse. Let's put this logic in reverse. Let's say in the last 40 years, the wealth gap has changed. I'm in the bottom 50%, and I went from 3.9 to 10%. And those, SOBs, those rich people, they went from 8% to 1%. I'm so much closer. But in that same scenario, the pie is smaller. I can't pay my rent. Do I care that I'm closer to the richest person if I can't pay my rent? It's the stupidest thing. Of course I don't care. What I care is about the amount of money that I have, right? But because we have such abundance, we have the freedom to go, golly, I've never been richer, But God, I'm so dissatisfied. I cannot believe those rich people have so much more than I do. No relationship to how the quality of your life is, what you can afford. No relationship, right? It's completely unhinged. It's just comparison. And so what my article title was the comparison is a root of discontent, and discontent is the seed of this paralysis. And that we have to be out soldiers out there, like the delegates. And now let's just synthesize what all this looks like on the next chart, just so you can see reality versus what's catching the attention. The red line is the proportion line, which has no relevance whatsoever. The green line is real wealth, right? So this is for the bottom 50%. So bottom 50%, their proportion of wealth has dropped slightly, but their amount of wealth has increased exponentially. And the story in their head is screwing them up so they don't make good decisions. Anyway, that was more than a mini rant. I'll let you guys respond. Yeah, thanks. I feel better. So thank you.
I don't think I want to follow that.
I'll save it for myself.
That was great. That was great. I actually just private messaged McKenna. I said, I love Ron's rants.
But what do you think, David? Do you see that though? Isn't that the truth?
Yeah, and I think that truth has been showcased in probably a half a dozen of our podcasts and our topics over the last handful of months. So I for me, there's nothing new there. But yeah, it's frustrating when you read headlines, watch the news, and so on, and read what the general sentiment is of the public. But then you actually look at it through a different lens. You're like, oh, okay, that's not how I was reading it. But
Yeah, and one of those things, I just encourage everybody. We talked about this last week. When you see some goofy chart like that, especially that goes viral, like challenge it. Like, that's not what who cares? Like remember last week, David, we had an affordability. It was the same kind of suggestion. Affordability isn't a subtraction equation; it's a division equation. And so they were saying like, gosh, houses are now the difference between your annual income and your house value is or cost is now the highest it's ever been. You subtract house cost by your income. Stupidest thing I ever saw. We argued last week. No, you divide the house cost by your income and get a ratio. So the true equation is a division, not a subtraction. Same thing here. The true formula isn't what proportion of wealth do I have in the entire pie. Because it doesn't matter what size how much of the pie I have. What's more important is how big the pie is, and that's all we're saying, right? Like, okay, my part of the pie, my sliver is slightly less. I didn't get a quarter of it. I have a smaller sliver, but the pie is 15 times bigger, so I have more, and I should be pissed off? I don't think so. Anyway, I'm gonna get off the rant again.
All good. That was a great point, Mike. We don't need to spend any more time on this topic, but I thought it was worth bringing in that comment because I think there's some weight to it. You don't have to go back too far to when today's poorest poor are richer than the richest rich in terms of quality of life. Absolutely true. But let's move on to our final topic. We always end with an AI or tech tip of the week. McKenna, roll that bumper.
All right.
Caught you, Ron.
I was taking the bumper break. I love this picture of yelling at AI. And McKenna, do we have any other assets in this topic? That's a podcaster, by the way. Oh, okay. Hold on. Let me lay it out. So here's the thing, guys. A lot of us have a misconception that we can just keep talking to our AI tool in the thread. Like we have a thread and we prompt it and then it responds. And we think over time it just gets to know us beautifully and it's so, kumbaya. And that's how we train our AI tools to know us. The truth is that's not really the best way, even for the novice. There's going to be a better way. And I think, McKenna, I think we might have those slides backwards. Can I see the second thing? And the better way is like, in say ChatGPT, or here's the way. So we're going to show you. So the way you do this is that you actually have to embed your preferences, the things that are specific to you, in a different area than in a chat prompt. And so, for example, in Claude, you would go put it in skills. And I'll give you an example of this in a second. In ChatGPT, you put it in the customizations or in projects. In Gemini, you put it in gems. And let me give you a really good example. And Dave and I both did this. So in our ChatGPT, when chat was just having just a horrible problem with putting M dashes every other word for some reason, well, I know, David, you and I argued there nobody ever used one before ChatGPT, and that was a useless 30-minute argument. But what we both did is we went into our customization screen in ChatGPT, and we kind of pasted a prompt that killed that skill. We just said, never do this. And then what happens, that applies globally in the ChatGPT environment, no matter what thread we're in. Where if I would have just done it in, say, my writing thread, it wouldn't have carried over to my email thread. And by doing this, you're globally changing it and training it. And so if you go back now, the prompt here, which is for the Claude skills, which is no different if you used it in another way, you would simply cut and paste this prompt into skills, and you can now start to really get your AI tool to understand your personification, which is really what it's about. David, any thoughts about that? You want to argue about M dashes again?
No, but M dashes were replaced with ... then a space. It makes me think about how much AI has grown over the last 2 years. Where I think when people first started using it, they were using it almost as if it was just another a search engine, you know? And I think some people are still using it as a search engine. But I think how it's progressed, and it's progressed very fast with the use of agents and for completing a profile. Sorry, I was reading a comment from your brother again. Just the way it's progressed and how you can train it. I tell you what, Ron and I are very close to launching a new product in the next couple months or so. But the amount that Ron has learned, and there are, Ron, how many nodes? 29 nodes in this prompt, and the amount of efficiencies and the amount of mind-blowing stuff that the AI can actually accomplish for you today is just absolutely insane. So my only thoughts are about how AI has advanced just so quickly, and how you have to stay on top of it. And Ron literally just told me he worked 20 hours yesterday on this. And so it doesn't come easy. AI is something that is going to be, it's already changed the world, and I think it's going to continue to change the world. But it's going to benefit those that actually adopt it, use it, and use it to their best advantage. So that wasn't very valuable
David,
information, but yeah.
David, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, and we were talking just how empowering, and also, by the way, how it's the absolute equalizer AI is. But it's far more important to learn how to use AI than to learn how to use a skill. It's far more important. You can do there with AI. If you're a master, which I'm not, but if you're a master at AI, you can, whatever the discipline is, you can oftentimes get to the 90th percentile or better by just knowing how to use your AI tools. And so you don't have to be a master of programming. You don't have to be, I would argue, and you can argue with me, we'll do this over a happy hour another time in person. You don't have to be a marketing expert. You don't have to be a legal expert. You can get your tool to get you to 90% if you know how to use it, and if you have the right approach. McKenna, you look like you're an AI atheist. You want to drop something on this?
I was told to bring myself on screen.
I told her to come on screen. So
I'm scared.
Hey, McKenna, when did you develop this I Dream of Genie kind of strategy on this show, where you just pop up at different places on the screen? It's like we call you and you're on the bottom left, you're in the center, you're on the top left. Like,
if we have media on screen, there's sometimes where my normal space is blocking it, and so I have to and move myself over so that way I'm not blocking crucial information.
I might get like a genie jar thing and just go like this in the future. And you can just pop up.
McKenna, where are you? No, I sent her in the private chat. I said, bring yourself on screen because I was going to wrap things up because we always end with a cheers. If you've joined us for this happy hour, we hope you had a drink in your hand. Thanks for joining us. We've had fun. Hope you had fun. I hope this brought value to your 60 minutes or 70 minutes. And we go live every Thursdays. Mike Stowers, always a shout out to you. You're awesome for all the comments, questions, and thanks for purchasing a Tartan Army shirt. So until next week, let's end with a cheers. Cheers, McKenna and Ron,
Cheers,
and to everyone out there.
Cheers.
And we'll see you next week.